The Chargers bounced back in a big way on Thursday night, thoroughly dominating the Vikings on both sides of the ball.
You are Locked On Chargers, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Chargers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, and welcome into the Locked On Chargers podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Wade, joined as always by my co-host, David Drogemeyer, and we've been covering the Chargers now for 10 seasons, but this is our 8th year as the host of the Locked On Chargers podcast, bringing you your team every day. Thank you to the everydayers out there for making us your first listen, especially on a late night Thursday edition of the Locked On Chargers podcast. To make sure you never miss it, go subscribe or follow for free on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and listen wherever you get your podcast from. David, the Chargers are back on track.
And 1-0, and the new Navies look good, feel good, play good, and the Chargers dominated the Vikings on Thursday Night Football.
They did. I mean, it was a thoroughly dominating performance on both sides of the football, and we have a lot to get into. It's great to have a show where you're getting into a bunch of great stuff. But this episode is brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved. David, we don't get to sit back in many blowouts. I mean, really, the Chargers only had one double-digit win this year, and it was against the Raiders in a 3-interception Geno Smith game. But even that game, they kind of struggled to put the Raiders away and just kind of put the finishing touches on it early. That was not a problem on Thursday night as the Chargers win 37-10 in a game that really never was close. I mean, after the beginning of it, really the closest it got was 14 points at one point. But I think that was the biggest takeaway, was just the Chargers needed this. They've been so banged up. They got some guys back, and they went out and showed that, hey, we were the much better team on Thursday night, and we just haven't really seen them put anyone away like that all year.
Yeah, and also that they took the performance against the Indianapolis Colts very personally, and they were embarrassed by it, and they had to wash that bad taste out of their mouth immediately, and they did so emphatically on both sides of the ball. Offensively, did whatever they wanted. Defensively, completely controlled the football game, and this one, it was a beautiful thing to watch. I wanted to see some physicality out there in those Navy uniforms. We saw it. It looked like a completely different football team tonight.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the physicality because you saw it on both sides of the ball. Not only the Chargers being able to run the ball effectively as they did in this game for over 200 yards, but also just being able to stop the run as well. I mean, it was just a noticeable difference. Obviously, the Vikings got down so quickly in this game that they couldn't really run the ball, even if they had wanted to, even if it had been successful. But man, you take out a couple of, garbage time runs and it looks really bad on that Vikings box score. But I think the biggest thing was just, we know kind of the deficiencies of this team. Yes, they're getting a little healthier. Yes, they really looked a lot more like the 3-0 team, right, that we started with, as opposed to the team that went 1-3 over the last 4 games. But I did think that it was just the physicality in the trenches, which has been such a problem, really showing itself. And I mean, the defense, they only allowed 1 touchdown, and that was after a turnover. Never let them sustain any kind of offense. But it was getting off to that hot start, getting up 21-3. So you could run the football up, more and control the game that way. And I just think that when you got, it was 23-3 last week against the Colts, David, when they really got out of their game plan. They got put in a terrible spot where they had to throw the ball and everyone knew it, and they just got totally dominated. This game was the complete opposite. They controlled the game from the beginning. They got off to a fast start. They had a good plan going into this one. And I mean, they just needed it in the worst way. You went 1-3 over your last 4 games, and you have teams coming up like the Steelers and the Jaguars and games like that you have to win, and also the Titans this week. But I think obviously the biggest difference in this game, David, one of the biggest reasons why they looked so much more like the team that started the season, was getting Joe Alt and Khalil Mack back in a more significant way this week.
Absolutely. I mean, Joe Alt's such a difference maker. You see it on the offensive line so quickly. I mean, just get that feeling of peace on that left side, knowing that Joe Alt's out there and he's got it locked down. And he absolutely did, not only in pass protection, but was a force in the running game as well, run blocking. Kimani Vidal found success running behind Joe Alt on that left side all night long. Huge difference maker. And yes, Khalil Mack, back to the full form of Khalil Mack that we're used to seeing, the guy that's dominant as an edge rusher and also effective at being really, really stout on the edge, and securing that edge with physicality and violence. His presence was desperately missed, and it showed itself. Both these guys, big, key, important players on both sides of the ball, really showed up in a big way, and their performances directly related to the Chargers winning this game in dominant fashion.
Yeah, and I think more than anything, it just gives you hope. Like, it's just like you needed it. You needed a little bit of hope. You needed for the Chargers to look like a really good team, because, I mean, the only win in the last month was against the Dolphins, and like they almost blew that, right? That's a game they should have put away, and they almost blew it at the end. So I think that just it's a vote of confidence for this team in knowing, hey, with these guys back, with Joe Alt back, with Khalil Mack back, we are back to a team that can have these kind of performances, and this is the first of its kind so far this year. I mean, the Vikings were really banged up too. Guess who doesn't care? The team that's been as banged up as anyone, right? Both teams were extremely banged up. But I think as far as Joe Alt goes, like, just to know that your blind side is protected. And I mean, more than that, I think that you saw the escapability, right, and the maneuverability of Justin Herbert a lot more, because it wasn't 5 guys getting pushed into his lap, right? There were levels to it. He could move around the pocket. He could step up when he had to. He could drift over to the left side when he needed to, because he knew he had protection there. So I thought that was huge. Joe Alt immediately just, giving you so much immensely more than what you were getting before when he was out with Austin Deculus. So I thought that was great. Khalil Mack, again, last week, 12 snaps, almost purely as a situational pass rusher, and he still notched a sack. This game gets another sack. I think Chris Rim said it was 3 straight games with the sack with the Chargers, which is great to see, 1 before the injury and 2 since he's been back. But it was those other snaps that he got in this game that were on those running downs that helped them on early downs get to those situations where they could rush the passer more effectively. But the Chargers, obviously, you never want to go too far into it without just saying they're not there without Justin Herbert, who was awesome. And we'll talk about the bad interception, and I thought it was a bad one, even though it was tipped. But Justin Herbert, you can't forget about what happened the rest of the game, because he really was special tonight in a lot of moments.
He really was. A very efficient night from Justin Herbert, 18 of 25, 227 yards, 3 touchdowns, and was especially excellent against the blitz. From Next Gen Stats, 13 of 15, 162 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception when the Vikings blitzed, his 4th most yards against the blitz in his career. So Brian Flores cannot be a big fan of Justin Herbert, because it's been 2 games against Justin, and Justin has thoroughly dominated his defense both times. He was special tonight. Like, his escapability, his evasiveness in the pocket was fantastic. His ability to create and really extend plays, and also use his legs to great effectiveness. 7 rushes for 62 yards, good for 8.9 yards a rush. Justin Herbert was, in every facet, fantastic, besides one blemish tonight.
Yeah, I mean, 1 or 2, right? I mean, that first throw that he had, the game almost started with the pick six. There was a blitz they didn't see until too late. He tried to go hot without, tried to throw to a spot for Lyle McConkey, and I was surprised that got overturned, right? Just because it was called an interception on the field. I think the ball did move once it hit the ground, but his hands were on it. I was a little surprised. That, and then obviously the one later on, which had a chance of letting the Vikings back in the game. We'll talk a little bit more about that. And that was just bad, tipped or not. On first down, running full speed to the left and trying to throw back across your body, even if the ball wasn't tipped, is a bad decision, right? It just is. It's 24-3 at the time. There's no need for you to try to make that play on first down. This is my thing, though. It's hard not to play hero ball when hero ball is the only thing that got you to this point, right? Like, this man, you only win the Dolphins game because he goes hero mode. You only win the Broncos game because he goes hero mode and is probably making passes to Keenan Allen, who's well covered in the end zone while about to be hit, that you wouldn't advise many quarterbacks to make in that situation. But he has to know when to kind of turn it off. But I did think the difference tonight was the creativity when he was scrambling. One of them got a great block from Kimani Vidal, who, but just like set up his blockers, like had the vision to know, hey, I'm going to cut out, I'm going to get a block here and pick him an extra 10 yards. He has been, one of the best scrambling quarterbacks in the NFL so far this year per Chris Rim, most rushing yards he's had through 8 games at this point. A bad interception. No one's going, even tipped, I'm not going to absolve him of that one, even though obviously when you have guys in your face all the time, like balls are going to get tipped, interceptions are going to happen, and he just has the worst luck when balls get batted up in the air.
World.
But 289 yards of offense, a 96.2 QBR. That only goes up to 100, right? Passer rating of 122.8.
Almost perfect.
Averaged over 9 yards per attempt. Besides those 2 plays, I mean, he was basically flawless and continues to show why he's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. But what about that defense who needed a bounce back in a big way, and they did it in dramatic fashion? We're going to talk about them and more in today's Locked On Chargers podcast. First, though, I need to tell you guys about FanDuel because the NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer that you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you will unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love how FanDuel gives me so many ways to play. I built parlays, I tried player props, and even followed the live lines during the game and did live in-game betting. But it makes watching football even more exciting when you got a little something riding on the action. And I'll double down on that. When you have a weekend where you already know that the Chargers have lost, it's a great weekend already. When you have $300 bonus dollars in FanDuel money to bet on the rest of the games that aren't Chargers games, those games are going to be better. You're going to have a better time. But whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. The odds are already aren't out yet for next week, but it'll be interesting to see what the Chargers are when they have to go to Tennessee after getting to 5-3. A great chance to go 6-3. But what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today to get started. If you're a business owner, here's the truth. SaaS promised to make work easier, but now the average company is buried by hundreds of apps that slow down your teams and simply don't work together. That's not SaaS, that's sad. Software as a disservice. That's why you need Rippling. Rippling is the unified platform for global HR, payroll, IT, finance, all in one place, and they've helped millions of businesses replace a mess of disconnected tools with one system to give leaders clarity, speed, and control. By uniting your employees, teams, and departments in one system, Rippling removes the bottlenecks, busy work, and silos your software wherever it's created. Everything from onboarding to payroll to IT access, it all runs automatically and perfectly in sync. And right now, you can get 6 months for free with Rippling when you go to rippling.com/LockedOnNFL. Learn more at rippling.com/LockedOn. That's rippling.com/LockedOnNFL for 6 months free. Terms and conditions apply. David, we have more good stuff to get into, including the Chargers defense, which has been much maligned over the last several weeks, but obviously was coming off of its lowest point. I mean, you give up 38 points last week. I mean, that's always going to just, it's going to be a hard pill to swallow, but it was more than that. Like, they were just getting beat down. They were all over the place.
Yeah.
They were out of position, and they were just not playing physical enough, which is kind of the hardest pill to swallow. But Carson Wentz or not, Carson Wentz was hanging with the Steelers when they lost that game, almost took down the Eagles last week, put up 350 in a game a couple of weeks ago. This team has shown it can be a good offense, even with Carson Wentz out there. Now, they're missing their tackles. I get it. Carson Wentz seemed banged up.
If anybody gets it, it's us.
Totally. But like the Chargers just looked different. Like from the opening snap, like they just had a different energy about them. There was a different level of physicality. There was a different level of violence. And David, there was only so much maybe they could show us in this game in particular, but I think they did just about everything they could.
Yeah, I mean, talking about a complete and total 180 bounce back performance after getting shredded. I mean, the Indianapolis Colts did whatever they wanted just a few short days ago. Through the air, on the ground, doesn't matter. In this game, they completely shut the Vikings down. 164 yards of total offense allowed in this game. They only allowed the Vikings to net 12 first downs in the game. That's sacked crazy. Carson Wentz 5 times. They hit him 8 times. They also had 7 tackles for loss. So they were stopping the run. They were stopping the pass. They didn't allow the Vikings to really get off the ground and do anything. They allowed 34 yards of rushing total in this game. And I think about 14 or 15 of those yards were on the final drive. Before that, the Chargers completely took the running game away from the Vikings. They did nothing tonight. The Chargers had them in fits. They brought the violence, they brought the physicality, and it showed from the very snap all the way to the end. The Vikings had very little answers for the Chargers tonight.
Yeah, and it was just great to see from a defense that had been reeling. I mean, you're talking about a defense that had given up, season highs and points allowed in 3 straight games. 27 against the Commanders, 27 against the Dolphins, and then 38 last week against the Colts. And it almost didn't matter who it was. Like, they had to come out and show something tonight. And this is a team that had been able to put up points even with Carson Wentz out there, right? You didn't let Justin Jefferson have a gigantic game. You didn't let anyone else have really a good game at all. And really, that's all you need. Like, if you can just be super stout against the run at the very beginning of the game to not build yourself in a hole and be able to get off the field a couple times, it changes the complexion of everything. But it was really, really dominant. They got the steps that they needed. And, 3 of 13 on third down. But the big thing, no big explosive plays. Like, there was just no broken plays where somebody's going for 40-plus yards for the first time, and I can't remember how long, David. It feels like every week we were getting one of those things. Untouched runs. How many untouched rushing touchdowns did we see tonight? 0, right?
No.
There had been 6 of them over the last 3 games I could think of. So, I thought it starts in run defense, like it always kind of is with this team. They had to have it, but I thought the defensive backs, like Cam Hart, 3 pass breakups, covering Justin Jefferson a lot of the time. Like, there was just some really good individual performances. Justin Aboigbe, 2 sacks as well.
2 sacks for Justin Aboigbe, man. We got to give that kid some flowers after being
4 sacks now.
Really, completely a healthy scratch and really had a redshirt freshman year, basically in his first year of his NFL career, to come back, rededicate himself, do what the coaches asked him to do, and be a true difference maker on the interior. As you put it, probably the best interior pass rusher on this Chargers team with 4 sacks. It's unbelievable what he's done so far. Hats off to Mr. Justin Aboigbe.
Yeah, he's the only Chargers defensive tackle that has more than 1 sack. I think by the metrics, maybe Deshaun Hand was a little bit better. Tar has his moments, but 4 sacks is 4 sacks, especially for a guy who only played, less than 30 snaps last year. And I think more than that, it's just like a sign of the development, right? Like seeing a guy who couldn't even, not be a healthy scratch last year coming in and paying, being an impactful player for you. It gives you hope for guys like Kyle Kennard, right? Who hasn't really played at all. But I think, shows the development a little bit too. Of course, with any, great performance, it's going to come with setbacks. And I think especially when you're talking about a Thursday night coming off of only 4 days of rest. And of course, as the Chargers get some guys back, they lose some big pieces, especially defensively in this game with Derwin James, Tony Jefferson, Mekhi Becton, and Tarheeb Still all going out at some point. Tony Jefferson, David looked up, did return to the game, which is nice to see. But man, it's just like, you're feeling so good about some guys coming back, and then instantly you kind of feel bad again. Okay, now how do we get by without these pieces?
Yeah, I think I did also see some comments from Tarheeb Still that just saying that he just got ran into. He's not really concerned about missing time.
His quote was, game. "I'll be good, though. I'll be great. My bad," according to Chris Rems. Like, not just good, he'll be great, and doesn't think he's going to miss time.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously at that time the Chargers already had the game in hand, so there's no reason for him to be put out there and put in any kind of jeopardy of making it something that's not bad into something that could be much worse. So obviously, I think the big injury here to be of major concern here is Derwin James, right? Leaving the game and not being able to come back. That is not good. Obviously, Derwin James is the heart and soul of that defense. But to the Chargers' credit, they did a great job of being able to cover down with his absence, and they were able to provide some quality play. But Derwin James is one of those players that is definitely irreplaceable.
Yeah, and there will be a trickle-down effect, right? Like, at some point, you see Jasir Taylor out there, and you're like, wait a second. Like, not only do you not have pretty much your normal slot guy as a cornerback who would be Tarheeb Still, but Derwin James is your other slot. So, with both of those guys out of the game, then you get someone like a Jasir Taylor on the field. And not to say that he didn't play well or whatever. It's just like, oh, okay, now that's kind of where this is at this point. And I think also, when you trade away Alohi Gilman, you start looking at, things a little bit differently as far as the depth of that group. But we'll talk about R.J. Mickens, who got his first interception. That was great to see, and him stepping up in that way. But the Chargers need these guys back. And with Derwin, the way they use him defensively, it's going to be hard to see, hard to replace for sure. Mekhi Becton, man, he leaves every game. It feels like he, it sucks, obviously. I hope the best for him, but man, it's just like such a trend at this point where it's like, it's not just about him being able to be ready to go on game day. It's how long into the game will he have to leave? Because like, good.
Well, and Foster Starrell actually played really, really good football in this game.
It'd be interesting to see the numbers on that.
Yeah, I'd like to see it because like it was quiet. They didn't call out his name, and you know when your name's not getting called out on the offensive line, that's a really, really good thing. So for him to step in there and provide some stability there with Mekhi Becton being in and out of the lineup all year long was something that the Chargers really needed tonight.
It is, and I just think at this point it's just so hard to have faith that you have him out there, right? And he's going to be able to be out there. I mean, he's definitely left more games than he's played, like more games than he's played the entire game. He's left games with injuries, and you just hate to see it. But someone who's had injury concerns his entire career, struggling with them very mightily in his first few games with the Chargers. But we still have more to get into, including the young bucks stepping up. And Oronde, Gadsden, what can you say? That dude is here, and he's here to stay. We're talking about all that and more in today's Locked On Chargers podcast. This episode is brought to you by Mazda's Moving the Game Forward. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than put points on the board. They move crowds, move culture, and keep moving the game forward. And I truly think that this game, the moment that moved the game forward was the Chargers responding after Justin Herbert's bad interception, and then just a disastrous sequence after that, where for some reason the Vikings down 3 scores, decide to keep it a 3-score game with a field goal. You get out the field 3 points, and you have 12 men on the field. That was crazy. You give up you stop them on 4th down, end up giving up a touchdown. But the Chargers, the part that moved it forward was coming back after that. They got it within a 2-score game. Then you come back down after that and you score that touchdown that really put the game away. You had a really bad moment, but you persevered through it. Justin Herbert, bad pick, ended up having some key plays on that next drive to make it a 3-score game and put that game away. And that is what moves the game forward. But when you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. David, we still have some more flowers to give out today. It's nice when you have a show that, isn't 2.5 segments on the bad stuff that happened because your team's getting blown out.
Amen.
Being on the other side of it when your team is doing the blowing out. So we have a lot of guys we want to get into, but thank you as always for making us your first listen. If you need a second listen, want to keep up with the rest of the NFL, make sure to check out Locked On NFL because they have 2 shows a day with 2 very different voices keeping you up to date with everything throughout the league on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts from, including one guy we're talking to next week with Tyler Rowland and the Titans coming up this upcoming week. But Oronde, Gadsden, what can you say? This dude's a 5th-round pick, and he's just straight up, after being a healthy scratch the first 2 weeks, has come back and has just been one of the best tight ends in the entire NFL, David, over the last 3 weeks. I mean, the numbers are insane. Almost all of his production came in the first half when they built the lead. They didn't even feel like they really needed him in the second half at all. But another 5 catches for 77 yards, a touchdown, average 15.4 yards per catch. David, the Oronde Gadsden show is still going, and now this is 3 weeks straight.
Oronde Gadsden's a star. He is absolutely a star, and he is taking off before our eyes, turning into a shooting star, and he has been fantastic over the last 3 games. 19 catches, 309 yards, 2 touchdowns, and has been a big play machine at 16.2 yards per catch. He has been a huge focal point of the Chargers offense, being very reliable, being very friendly to Justin Herbert, and not only making the catches, but making big plays off those catches. The yards after catch for him has been fantastic to watch. He's special. We have been waiting very impatiently for the Chargers to find Justin Herbert, his Antonio Gates, and it looks like so far, Oronde Gadsden II is putting his name firmly in that conversation.
It's cool for him to have a big night on a night that Antonio Gates is getting celebrated while they're wearing the Gates that the jerseys that Antonio Gates became a Hall of Famer in, right? Like there was just so much nostalgia with those jerseys tonight, and they looked awesome. But seeing Oronde do it in that jersey was pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, I'm not going to call him Antonio Gates yet, obviously. You don't do that in half a season. You don't do it in one season. You do it in 16 seasons, right? Like that.
Yeah.
That was the thing with Antonio Gates. It was the longevity. That being said, he's going to blow away everything around that Gates did as a rookie. I mean, he almost did it in this game. I think he was like less than 100 yards short going into the game that what Antonio Gates did as a rookie. But to me, it's just this, like, showed off the yak again, right? A 40-yard catch. Now this is back-to-back weeks where you have this dude making it a 40-plus yard explosive play for you. Third consecutive week with 7 catches and at least 68 yards. Per Chris Rim, tight end Oronde Gadsden II is the first rookie since tight end Mike Ditka in 1961 with 240 receiving yards and 2 receiving touchdowns in a 2-game span. Go back and watch the movie put on the guy in the middle of the field on that touchdown too. Like it wasn't just wide open for no reason. And Justin Herbert needed him to get open quickly, and he found the end of it. But it's, sliding catches over the middle. It's, diving catches, jumping catches. He's doing everything. And slowly but surely he's becoming a focal point in this offense that has a lot of really good offensive skill position players, to the fact where he is a focal point, and you have guys like Quentin Johnson, the leading receiver through 4 weeks, who had 0 targets in this game. They didn't even need him. But let's also give a shout out to Kimani Vidal, a man who was cut at the beginning of this year, put on the practice squad, and with Najee Harris and Omarion Hampton going down, this is the second game in 3 weeks, David, where he's been asked to take the mantle of the lead back, and once again, he came through. Good for Kimani Vidal.
Man, it's got to feel good for him, man. Just being on the practice squad and, being an afterthought to being thrust into the lineup and having to be the main feature back for the Chargers offense and coming through big time. 23 carries, 117 yards, and a touchdown. That's good for 5.1 yards per carry. That'll play all day long, and the Chargers ran the ball extremely effectively, especially in that second half where they were just kind of trying to salt the game away. 43 rushes for 207 yards in total for the Chargers on offense. They ran it at an incredible clip, and they were finding big chunks, whether it was running through the middle, running towards the left, running towards the right. Kimani Vidal was fantastic in this game, showed great vision, and ran very hard. I think he was running physical as well as the Chargers playing physical in this game.
Yeah, and shout out to Trey Harris, who might already be the best blocking
He's fantastic,
on
man.
this team.
He's so good.
You always find him in those big chunk games. But yeah, this is about Kimani Vidal. I mean, Saquon Barkley against this Vikings defense had 44 rushing yards last week. That dude would have put up 2,000 if he played every game last season. I think he did put up 2,000 last year. Saquon averaged 2.4 yards per carry, and now you have Kimani doing 5.1 yards per carry, getting the touchdown. More than that, I thought the best moment was near the goal line, right when he got it down to the 1 yard line before the Trey Harris touchdown.
Yeah,
where like the blocking was set up to the right. He sees a gap and he just takes off totally left, doesn't follow any of his blockers, and it was the right call. Because he would have got stacked up had he followed him, and he turns it into a first down and a first and goal from the 1 yard line. So really impressive. I mean, at one point had Harrison Smith on his back, just carrying him for another 10 yards, was breaking arm tackles, was pulling out spin moves. Like he really seemed to gain a confidence tonight that we haven't seen from him much. And I mean, 2 of the last 3 games, obviously last week, you're getting blown out so early. He gets 9 carries and just for 20 yards, and they just get dominated. The run game looked good tonight. 207 rushing yards. Yeah. Justin Herbert, great rushing, running the football. Yeah. But man, I mean, the Chargers aren't putting up too many 200 rushing yard games, so I'm not going to take this one for granted by any means. But I did want to wrap things up with a couple of cool firsts, David, because we got to see Trey Harris get into the end zone, which was awesome. And we also got to see R.J. Mickens coming down with his first interception. I mean, between Oronde, Trey Harris, R.J. Mickens, these rookies coming through in a big way.
Absolutely love it. And for Trey Harris, a guy who's been doing a lot of the dirty work in the running game as a run blocker, to see him get his first opportunity to score a touchdown and be able to capitalize that and cash that in, that really was cool to watch, because that guy has been doing the dirty work in order to be able to get those opportunities, and he was rewarded with his first touchdown. Was really fantastic to watch that for Trey Harris. He absolutely deserves that. And R.J. Mickens, a guy who's just been waiting in the wings, right? He got drafted to a safety room that in the beginning of the year was very crowded. And then Alohi Gilman gets traded away. And then, all of a sudden, a couple of injuries later, and he's on the field playing meaningful, important snaps, and coming away with a big interception, man, a big turnover for the Chargers. You got to love all of the contributions that you're getting from the young core nucleus of the Chargers in this game.
Yeah, I mean, think about it, bro. Like, you have Joe Alt, you have Ladd McConkey, you have Justin Aboigbe, Tarheeb Still, Cam Hart with a big game in this one, Kimani Vidal in this one, second-year player. And then you have Oronde Gadsden and Trey Harris and RJ Mickens. That's incredible drafting. That is incredible that you're getting those contributions from that many of your players all within their first and second year. I mean, we didn't even talk about Ladd. I think it's easy to forget, that he's a second-year player. He's the same amount of time in the league as Kimani Vidal at this point, right?
Yep.
Like, and he, goes off again, and it's like you don't know who it's going to be. He goes for 88 yards this week. It's Keenan for $119 last week. It's Oronde for 164 last week. Like, it
weapons
was
on
Quentin
weapons
Johnston,
on weapons.
And like Joe Ortiz had his shortcomings. They didn't do enough on the offensive line for sure. But he built this weapon base up for years to come. And RJ Mickens, obviously, the first interception of his career, maybe the easiest interception he's going to have in his career.
That's true.
Carson Wentz, I know, likes to hunt, but man, he threw up a duck that was easily intercepted.
Well,
by
he got
RJ Mickens.
Hunted tonight, that's for sure.
Yeah.
The Chargers.
He was rattled
all
and hurt
over him.
Yeah, he was rattled for sure. And Trey Harris, even on that play, they've been so bad in the red zone. Things keep breaking down. It's hard in the red zone when you have terrible protection. If someone's not winning right off the bat, it's probably not going to work out. This time, Justin Herbert buys some time. Trey Harris sees it. He cuts back in the opposite direction. A friendly target to the quarterback comes wide open and gets a touchdown. And I think in that part of the field, you need Trey Harris out there over like someone like Quentin Johnston because he can make the tough catch as well, right? More of a route runner too. So awesome to see these guys coming through. And I mean, man, if Joe Ortiz can be a little bit better in free agency, like the Chargers got a dude as far as who is picking these draft picks for them. I don't know how many more I want traded away, David, because he, that fifth round pick for Odafe Oweh, shout out, got us another sack in this game too. But man, fifth round picks, Tarheeb Still, Oronde Gadsden, like KOS will probably go off next year. We
Looking
just don't
like
know,
diamonds in the rough.
It's just awesome, man. It's great to see these young guys coming through, especially with the injuries that they've had. It's always next man up, and everyone says it.
Of course.
This is what it looks like when it actually comes to fruition. Guys taking advantage of those opportunities and running with them because Oronde Gadsden isn't the only young player that's kind of solidified in these last couple weeks a role for themselves on this team. So great to see. Great going into the weekend with a big W. The Chargers,
fun game, man. 5-3
with a game coming up against the Titans for a chance to go 6-3, which I think would make starting off 3-0 and then getting to 4-3 feel a lot better. But make sure you guys are back with us for that. We'll be getting into buy or sell next week with the biggest Charger storylines and overreactions. You can hit us up for that at Locked On LAC on Twitter, at Locked On Chargers on Instagram, and our Locked On Chargers Facebook page. We also post the show to all of those places as well every single day, but the best way to make sure you don't miss it is subscribing or following for free on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and listening wherever you get your podcast from. I want to hear from you guys. You can also call into the voicemail line at 323-524-7924 to get your 30-second Chargers question or buy or sell in there. We'll be doing at least 2 fan shows, at least a mailbag show, and at least a buy or sell show next week. So let's hear from you guys. It was a little tough over the last month. Things feel a lot better now, and we want to hear from you guys. But we'll be back with you guys next week. Until then, take it easy and go Bolts.